Hey, Redeemer. No matter where you're watching this from, thank you so much for being here. I'm Jon, one of the pastors at Redeemer. Thank you for joining me for the Daily Word. If you will, please let me know where you're from in the comments. Please let me know where you're listening from. And if you have any questions, let me know there as well. As always, before we get into the text, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down here, I think. No, right down here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure where it is. But also don't forget to hit the bell too, so you don't miss the Daily Word or any of the other things that we produce on a weekly basis here at Redeemer. Now, I've organized today's teachings around two headings. The first, John the Baptist is born by God's grace, verses 57 to 66. And second, Zechariah announces God's salvation, verses 67 to 80. First, John the Baptist is born by God's grace. Notice verse 58. John the Baptist is born to Zechariah and Elizabeth as a result of God's great grace towards her. Think about it. And in the text, the crowd of family and friends rejoiced. They are amazed and they fear, which seems reasonable because of what God was doing. Think about it. A barren woman has a miraculous baby. This is shown to be the case with the father going mute for 9 months and 8 days until he could suddenly speak once again. The idea is summarized at the end of verse 66. Surely, based on all these miraculous things, these wonderful, amazing things, surely the Lord's hand is upon this child. Well, second, Zechariah announces God's salvation when he speaks finally after 9 months and 8 days. I wonder if Elizabeth enjoyed that he was silent. I don't know. But anyways, after he speaks, he is filled with the Holy Spirit, just like Elizabeth was in verse 41, and prophesies about God's salvation, a salvation that will not only forgive sins, as it says in verse 77, but will establish God's promises to Israel, establish and fulfill them. This redemption, verse 68, will be accomplished through the fulfillment of 3 unilateral Old Testament covenants, covenants that God made that do not need Israel's obedience in order for them to be fulfilled. These covenants were made with David and Abraham, as well as a covenant called the New Covenant. The covenant with David is the basis for what is said in verses 68 to 71. The covenant made with Abraham is the basis for what is said in verses 72 to 75. And the new covenant is the basis for what is said in verses 77 to 79. Now, did you notice I missed one verse, verse 76? That's where Zechariah gives his son his mission for life, already given in Isaiah 40, that he would be a prophet who would prepare the way for the Lord's arrival. Now, when you go back to Isaiah 40, verse 3, you see that L-O-R-D is capitalized. That's the name of God. Notice the point in that. Notice the significance of that. The divine name, Yahweh, the Lord, is given to Jesus, the one that John the Baptist was preparing the way for. That's without question. Of course, he's preparing the way for Jesus, but notice Jesus is referred to by the divine name because he is God, the second person of the Trinity. Finally, once again, Zechariah takes God's Old Testament promises to Israel literally. What God said about the future of the Jewish people and his work among them would happen literally, just as God said they would. What powerful truth we've looked at in this opening chapter, this first chapter in the book of Luke. There's a lot more for that's in store for us in Luke in the weeks ahead. Don't miss a day as we study the daily word together. Take care. See you later.